The air was hot and thick in the marketplace of Terran 5. Jordan, the human, walked between stalls filled with alien foods, glowing tools, and strange creatures in cages. He was just looking for a spare part to fix his old cargo ship. He didn't. Like crowds, especially not alien ones, but parts were cheaper here, suddenly. He felt a small tug on his sleeve. He looked down, expecting to see a beggar. But it was a little alien girl, no older than 7. With pale blue skin and big golden eyes, she stared at him, trembling, and whispered, "Human, are you single?" Jordan blinked, confused. What?" She grabbed his hand quickly, her voice shaking. "You must marry my mom, please. She's kind. And she cries every night." Jordan looked around, but no one laughed. No one said it was a joke. In fact, the aliens nearby were stepping away, pretending not to see. One old merchant closed his stall and left without a word. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "Where's your mom?" Jordan asked gently. The little girl pointed toward a narrow alley between 2 buildings. She tugged at his hand again. "Please, hurry, before the guards see you." Jordan should have walked away. He didn't even know this girl, but there was something in her eyes, desperation, fear, hope, all mixed together, and maybe something else, too, something human. He followed her into the alley. The light dimmed quickly, and the noise of the market vanished behind them. They passed broken crates, steam vents, and trash. And then he saw her half hidden behind. A wall slumped on the floor. The woman was tall, thin, and clearly weak. Her skin was the same pale blue as the girl's, but her cheeks were hollow and her eyes half closed. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. A long cut ran down her arm, wrapped in dirty cloth. Jordan knelt beside her. "Is this your mom?" The girl nodded. The woman opened her eyes slowly, looked at Jordan, then turned her face away. "She doesn't talk," the girl whispered. "Not anymore." Jordan opened his backpack and pulled out a protein bar and a water capsule. He handed them to the girl, and she quickly helped her mother eat. The woman took small bites, like she didn't trust the food. She didn't say a word. "What happened to her?" Jordan asked, keeping his voice low. The girl looked down. "Bad people. They said she broke the law, but she didn't. She only tried to protect me. Where's your father?" The girl shook her head. "Gone. Long ago." Jordan looked at the woman again. She had tried to sit up, but her hands were shaking. She didn't look like a criminal. She looked like someone who had lost everything. He sighed. "I can't marry someone I don't know." "Kid, I know," the girl said softly, "but if you don't, they'll take her away." "Who?" "The ones who took our home," she whispered. "The ones who said we have no value." Jordan didn't answer. He didn't like getting involved. Not in alien politics, not in anyone's problems. He fixed ships, moved cargo, and stayed quiet. But then the woman looked at him, not a long stare, just a short glance, but in that moment, he saw something behind her pain, a silent plea, a whisper her lips couldn't say. "Help us, all right?" Jordan said slowly, "I'll get her out of here, but that's all I can promise." The girl smiled for the first time. "Thank you, human." He helped the woman to her feet, careful not to hurt her. She leaned against him, too weak to walk alone. Jordan looked back toward the market. Guards were now patrolling, scanning faces. Someone was clearly searching for them. "Time to move," he muttered, with the alien girl leading the way and the mother holding on to him. Jordan disappeared into the shadows of the city. He didn't know where this path would take him, but deep inside, he felt that this wasn't just a rescue. It was the beginning of something far bigger, something that would change all their lives, forever. Jordan carried the alien woman through the underground tunnels of Terran 5. Her body was light to light, like a dying bird. Every now and then she coughed, but still, she said nothing, Not a single word since they met. The little girl walked beside them, quiet, holding Jordan's backpack with both hands, almost. "There," she whispered as they turned another corner, finally. They reached Jordan's small ship, a cargo hauler parked in a forgotten hangar beneath the city. No cameras, no guards, no questions. Just how he liked it, he helped the woman lie. Down on a cot in the back room, she closed her eyes, breathing slowly. Her skin pale and cold. "She needs rest," Jordan said, "and real food." "I'll help," the girl said quickly. "I know what she eats." Jordan went to his storage locker, found some nutrient packs, and handed them to her. He started a small heater to warm the room, then sat at the front of the ship. His mind was spinning. Who were these two? Why was the woman silent? Why had the guards attacked them last night in the alley? He tapped on his datapad and opened the local network. Typing in the basic description: blue-skinned female, child, injured, silent, hiding. Dozens of alerts popped up. Wanted posters, bounty warnings, legal notices, all without a trial. The woman's name was there, Sorrowful of the Cries, accused of betraying her own people during a border war, marked as non-cooperative, dangerous, and mentally unstable. Rewards were high for her capture, dead or alive. Jordan stared at the screen, then glanced at the closed door behind him. She didn't look dangerous. She looked broken. A soft knock came. It was the girl, standing there with tear-filled eyes. "Can you fix her?" she asked. "You're human?" "Humans fix things, right?" Jordan tried to smile. "We fix ships, mostly." She didn't laugh. Instead, she whispered, "She hasn't spoken since the war." Jordan crouched down. What happened to her? The girl hesitated, then said, "They made her choose. My mother had to send people to their deaths or be called a traitor. She refused. So, they took everything. Now, she thinks silence keeps me safe." Jordan looked at the girl, surprised by how clearly she spoke. She was young, but not dumb. She understood the world too well for her age. He sat down beside her, thinking, "Why did you ask me to marry her?" He asked gently. The girl looked away. "Because humans are different. You don't belong to our laws. She becomes part of your house, your clan. They can't touch her." Jordan rubbed his face. "So this is all about protection?" "No." The girl whispered, "It's about hope." She lost her voice, her name, her life. "I just wanted to give her something back." Jordan stood and walked into the back room. The woman, Sarah Lan, was awake but not looking at him. He pulled up a chair and sat beside her. "I know who you are," he said softly. "And I know what they said you did." She flinched slightly but didn't speak. He leaned closer. "But I saw you with your daughter. You're not a monster. You're a mother." Tears ran down her cheeks, but still no words came. "I'm not asking you to talk," he said. "I'm just asking you to live." He placed a small pendant in her hand, a human military dog tag. "My sister wore this when she got lost on Evaris 3. She didn't speak for a year after she was found, but she came back." Little by little, Cyrillan held the tag tightly. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded, just once. It wasn't much, but it was something, that night. Jordan stood outside the ship, watching the dark hangar. Footsteps echoed somewhere in the distance. He kept his hand near his blaster. They weren't safe yet, and soon, others would come looking, but inside that ship, a broken alien mother had held something in her hand, and for the first time in years, she had nodded. It wasn't speech, but it was the beginning of one. The hangar was silent, except for the slow hum of the ship's life support. Jordan couldn't sleep. He sat near the entrance of the ship, staring at the blinking lights of the control panel. His blaster rested on the table beside him, fully charged, safety off, inside the small sleeping area. Cyrillan and her daughter were curled up together. The child's head rested on her mother's arm, and for the first time, Sorrelin looked peaceful. She hadn't spoken a word, but she had eaten, cleaned up, and let the girl braid her silver blue hair. Jordan smiled at that. She wasn't healed, not yet, but she was alive, then. The ship's warning chime buzzed, low and sharp, unauthorized movement in the hangar. The screen flashed. Jordan jumped up and checked the monitor. 3 shadows were moving quickly across the floor. They weren't workers. They weren't traders. They were armed. He tapped into the outer cam. The faces were covered by black masks. Their armor carried no symbols, no official badge. No legal rights. Bounty hunters. Jordan cursed under his breath and ran to the back room. The little girl woke first, rubbing her eyes. Then Sorrelin opened hers wide and alert. She sat up fast, like she already knew. "They found us," Jordan whispered. "We have to go." Now, Sorrelin stood without help. Her legs shook. But her eyes were sharp. She grabbed her daughter's hand and nodded to Jordan. The ship's outer door slammed open with a loud hiss. Voices shouted in a language Jordan didn't understand. But he knew what it meant. Come out now, or die. Jordan raised his blaster and aimed at the hallway. He hit the emergency lights flooding the ship in red. Smoke vents released as a distraction. He turned to Sorrelin and the girl, out the back ramp run to the stairwell. The little girl hesitated, but her mother pushed her forward. Jordan stayed behind, covering them. The first bounty hunter stepped into the hallway. Jordan fired. The blast hit the hunter's shoulder, sending him crashing into the wall. The second one rolled behind a crate and returned fire. Laser shots burned through the ship's walls. One nearly hit the emergency fuel line. Jordan ducked and moved back, his hands steady. He fired again, this time hitting the second attackers. Leg screams filled the hallway, but there were more coming. Footsteps, heavy and fast. Jordan ran to the ramp. Sorrelin was helping her daughter up the stairs. He took one last look at the ship, the place that had been his home for years. Now it was burning. Now it was war. They made it to the stairwell. Jordan sealed the hatch behind them and locked it with his override code. For now, they were safe. Barely. They ran upward, through cold steel tunnels and dark staircases. Each level they passed brought them closer to the surface, but also closer to exposure. Terran 5 didn't protect fugitives, and humans weren't welcome outside the trade zones. At level 9, Sorrelin suddenly stopped. She looked down a hallway, her face pale. Jordan followed her gaze. On the wall was a symbol, burned in black, an upside-down triangle with a slash through it. "What is that?" he asked. She touched the wall, fingers trembling. Then finally, she spoke. "House of Eric, the ones who ruined us." Her voice was soft, but sharp, like broken glass. The little girl gasped and hugged her mother tight. "You spoke," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. Jordan didn't know what that symbol truly meant. But the pain in Sorrelin's face told him enough. He turned to her. "If we keep running, they'll never stop," he said. "We need a better plan." Sorrelin nodded again, her hand resting protectively on her daughter's head. "No more running," she said quietly, "but they won't stop, unless we change the rules." Jordan narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" The girl looked up. "She means the marriage." Jordan shook his head. "We already went over this." Sorrelin stepped forward, her voice steady now. "No more lies, no more hiding. You're human, and that gives us a chance. They can't hurt me if I belong to your line." Jordan stared at hers, not just a mother, but a fighter. Not just someone broken, but someone rising. The red lights of the ship still flashed behind them. Smoke poured into the stairwell, but between the danger and the darkness, something had changed. Sorrelin had found her voice. And now she had made a choice. Asterisk rain fell like ash from the broken sky of Terran 5's surface level. Jordan pulled his jacket tighter as he led Cerilyn and her daughter through the smog-filled alleyways. They had made it out, but barely. Now, every screen in the city flashed their faces. Wanted, armed and dangerous, last seen. Doc H1 to Jordan glanced at Cerilyn. Walking silently beside him, she had spoken last night, really spoken, but only a few words. Still, that was more than before, and that meant something. "Are you sure about this plan?" he asked, keeping his voice low. She didn't answer. Instead, the little girl looked up and said, "If you don't marry her, they'll keep hunting. But if you do, they can't touch her." Jordan gave a tired smile. "You keep saying that, because—" "It's true," she said, "and you're the only human who's helped us." They reached an old data hoovlong, abandoned and falling apart. Inside, broken consoles sparked and wires hung from the ceiling. Jordan pulled out a portable uplink device and set it on the floor. "I hope this still works," he muttered. He connected to the Galactic Legal Archiva system, so old and complicated. Even lawyers feared it. But Jordan had worked in trade for years. He'd seen enough contract loopholes to write a book. "All right," he said, typing fast, "according to this section, Article 44, Clause 17. Yep, here it is." He looked at Cerilyn. "There's a law that says if a non-human becomes part of a human bloodline through union marriage, adoption, or ritual bonding, then the person gets full legal protection. Under Earth's coalition law," she nodded once, lips tight, "but," Jordan added, "if I marry you, I become legally responsible for both of you. Your debts, your danger, your enemies. All become mine." Silence. Then Cerilyn stepped forward, her voice calm. "I know what I ask is heavy," she said. "I do not ask for love. I ask for safety for my daughter." Jordan looked at the child. Huddled in the corner, she didn't cry, she didn't beg. She just stared at him like he was the last star in a dark sky. "Okay," he said quietly, "but we'll do it my way." Through Earth's law, he connected his biosignature to the uplink. Cerilyn placed her hand over the scanner, hesitant at first, but firm. The system beeped, then displayed a message. "Marriage request pending, waiting for human con, hire maid hell, hire maid." Jordan held his breath. One last step, and everything would change. Before he pressed confirm, he turned to Cerilyn. "I need to ask, are you doing this for her? Or for you?" Cerilyn looked him in the eyes, and for the first time, her voice didn't tremble. "I'm doing this because I've been running for too long," she said, "and I want my daughter to grow up with a future, not fear." Jordan pressed his thumb to the screen. "Marriage complete, legal protection status." GRN tied for a moment. Nothing happened. Then a pulse wave spread from the uplink, broadcasting the legal bond across the galactic grid. In seconds, every bounty, every warrant, every kill order tied to Cerilyn was suspended. Jordan exhaled slowly. "It's done." The little girl ran forward and hugged him tight. "Now you're part of our family," she said softly. "Now you're safe too." But Jordan wasn't sure that was true. He knew House Evrock wouldn't give up just because of some loophole. If anything, they'd get angrier still. It was the only shield they had left, and for now, it held as they stepped out of the old hub and back into the streets. Jordan felt the weight of his choice settle on his shoulders. He didn't regret it, but he knew things would get worse before they got better. Cerilyn walked beside him, now not as a ghost of war, but as a woman with fire in her eyes, a mother who had stopped running, a stranger who now wore his name. The city above ground looked nothing like the streets below. Terran 5's sky levels were shining towers, glass bridges, and hover roads that curved into the clouds. It looked clean, safe, even beautiful. But Jordan knew better. "This is where the rich play and the poor disappear," he muttered, guiding Cerilyn and her daughter along a narrow walkway. The girl clutched his hand tightly. Saralyn, now walking with strength in her step, kept her eyes scanning the crowds above and below. They had no choice but to move upward. Jordan had received an alert and override request had been triggered by House of Eric. They were trying to cancel the marriage contract through a high court. If they reached a sky judge first, they could erase his legal protection. "We need to get to the consulate before sunset," Jordan said, once they stamped the record in person. "It's permanent, but we don't belong up here," Saralyn whispered. "They'll see us." "They already have," Jordan said. Grimly, pointing toward the sky, a patrol drone hovered far above. Scanning faces with red beams, they ducked into a mag-lift station and elevator tube that shot upward at terrifying speed. Just as the doors started to close, someone shouted. From across the platform, "There! That's them!" Jordan didn't wait. He slammed the override button, and the lift rocketed upward. The girl screamed from the sudden force. Saralyn wrapped her arms around her daughter, holding her tight. Jordan checked the tablet level 72 consulate zone, 2 minutes away. Then the alarm sounded. "Unauthorized occupants, security intercept inbound, they're overriding the lift." Jordan said, "We'll have company before we stop." He looked around, saw a maintenance hatch above. Without a word, he opened it and climbed out onto the top of the speeding elevator. Wind howled around him. Below, a second lift was rising fast with guards inside, weapons drawn. He aimed his blaster and fired, striking the cable brakes of the enemy lift. Sparks flew. The lift shook violently, but it didn't stop. Suddenly, a grappling claw shot up from the enemy lift and latched onto theirs. Jordan lost his balance and slammed against the cold metal roof. He scrambled to his feet just as a guard climbed up the claw and reached the top. The man raised a weapon. "Stand down, human. That woman is not yours by blood. Your bond means nothing to us." Jordan didn't answer. He fired. The blast hit the guard square in the chest. Knocking him back over the edge, the claw broke loose and the second lift dropped, spiraling into the lower levels. Jordan climbed back into the cabin, breathing hard. "We don't have much time," he said. "They'll try again." The lift stopped at level 72. The doors opened to a shining hallway of white and gold. Peacekeepers in silver armor patrolled the area. Civilians walked by without fear, most ignoring the poor family that queued. Stepped off the lift, but Jordan saw one man stop and tap his earpiece. "He's signaling them," Jordan said. Pulling his hood lower, "We've got seconds, not minutes." They moved quickly through the marble hall. Up ahead stood the Earth Consulate, marked by a glowing human flag and guarded by 2 bots with blue visors. Saralyn hesitated. She had never walked in a place of human power before. But the little girl took her hand and whispered, "Mom, this is home now." They stepped forward. Just as they reached the front gate, the ground behind them exploded. A team of masked attackers burst from the side corridor. House of Eric's hunters, armed and fast. One shouted, "Step away from the human. The contract is invalid." The bots at the gate turned, their arms charging energy shields. Jordan didn't wait for orders. He pulled Saralyn and the girl through the gate. As soon as they crossed the blue line, the bots spoke in unison. "Sanctuary granted. Earth. Protection engaged." The attackers tried to follow but were stopped by a blue force field that locked into place. One slammed his fist against the barrier. "This isn't over, human. You've made an enemy you'll regret." Jordan turned back and said calmly, "I already regret not doing this sooner." Inside the consulate, it was quiet, safe. The legal clerk scanned their ID and confirmed the marriage code, then printed a small silver chip engraved with Jordan's ID, Saralyn's face, and the word "UNI TEDIT" was done. Official, unbreakable. But Jordan knew the galaxy wouldn't stop hunting them just because of a law. Still, as Saralyn stood beside him, taller now, and her daughter leaned against his arm with trust in her eyes. He finally felt what he hadn't in years. Purpose. Smoke poured through the vents in the Earth consulate's east wing. Sirens screamed overhead, and people ran in every direction. Jordan kicked open a side door and motioned Saralyn and her daughter inside. This way. Hurry. Just minutes ago, everything was calm. The marriage had been confirmed, legal chip printed, and Earth's shield systems were activated. But then the wall exploded. House Everock didn't care about laws. They came with mercenaries, bombs, and no fear of consequences. Now they were burning down an Earth diplomatic building. All to reach one woman and her child. Jordan fired his blaster over a railing, hitting a shadow behind the smoke. He ducked back behind the wall and turned to Saralyn. "You all right?" She nodded, holding her daughter close. "We can't stay here," she said. "They're trying to cut us off from the central core." Jordan's voice was tight. "Yeah. They want to kill us before the news goes public." Just then, his comlink buzzed. A voice crackled through. "This is Officer Ryland with Earth's Defense Extraction Team is 10 minutes out. Hold position." Jordan swore under his breath. 10 minutes might as well be 10 hours right now. He looked around. One hallway led to the roof, but another path led to the heart of the consulate, to the broadcast chamber where every emergency message was recorded and sent to the whole planet. "Change of plan," Jordan said. "We're going to the broadcast room." Saralyn blinked. "Why?" "Because it's time the galaxy hears your voice," he said, looking at her firmly. "They've silenced you for years." "No more." She hesitated, her lips trembled. But then she stood taller, for the first time. She didn't look like someone running. She looked like a leader. They moved through the damaged hallways. Laser burns on the walls, flames licking the ceiling. Guards fought in the distance, outnumbered but holding the attackers back. Halfway to the chamber, a door burst open beside them. A mercenary stood, their rifle raised. Jordan pushed Saralyn and the girl to the floor. He raised his blaster and pulled the trigger. Click. "Empty?" the mercenary sneered. "You thought a paper marriage would stop us." Jordan didn't answer. Instead, Saralyn stood behind him. She held a fallen guard's rifle and fired. The mercenary fell back with a scream. Unconscious, Jordan stared at her, shocked. "I'm done hiding," she said, voice calm. "Let's go." They made it to the chamber. It was a round room with a glass podium, surrounded by cameras and lights. Jordan ran to the control panel, activated the emergency stream. "Once you start speaking," he said to her, "everyone on Terran 5 will hear you. No one can block." Saralyn stepped forward, hands shaking. Her daughter looked up at her, smiling with pride. Jordan placed the marriage chip on the console. A blue light lit up the room, verifying her identity. Then Saralyn began. "My name is Saralyn. Of Cries, I was once a voice in the council. A mother, a wife, a protector of peace. I was silenced by liars and marked as a traitor. But today, I speak not as a criminal, but as a wife and a mother once more." The stream broadcasted across the planet. People stopped in marketplaces, in homes, in ships watching, listening. Saralyn continued, "I did not betray my people. I refused to send innocent lives to die in a war they did not start. For this, they hunted me, tortured me, and tried to erase me. But one human gave me his name. And now, they cannot erase that outside the chamber." The attackers realized too late what was happening. Guards pushed forward, buying time. Saralyn raised her voice one last time. "To those who hear me, truth matters more than power. And no voice should be silenced, not by fear and not by force." Jordan ended the stream, then turned to her. "You were amazing," he said. She smiled faintly. Then the building shook again. Another explosion. This time closer. Jordan looked at the door. Extraction better get here now. Saralyn touched his shoulder. If we die, we die free, she said softly, but I hope we live. S. Family. Jordan didn't speak. He just took her hand in his and held it tight. Wind howled over the rooftops of Terran 5. The building behind them still burned. But the worst was over. Jordan stood at the edge of the landing platform, gripping his blaster with tired hands. Smoke curled in the sky but above it. A silver ship hovered silently. Earth defense had arrived. Saralyn stood beside him, her arm wrapped around her daughter. They were bruised, covered in dust and ash, but alive. The doors to the Earth ship opened with a hiss. A human officer stepped out, scanning the trio with sharp eyes. Jordan Malik. She asked, "You are under Earth protection status per bonded citizenship law." Jordan nodded. "That's us." The officer looked at Saralyn. "And the child? Are they with you?" "They're my family," Jordan said simply. "No further questions," the officer replied, and waved them inside as the doors closed behind them. The platform vanished from view. Terran 5 grew smaller below. Its towers nothing more than smoke and broken glass. Inside the ship, it was quiet, safe, clean. Saralyn sat down slowly, leaning back for the first time in days. Her daughter curled beside her, fast asleep in minutes. Jordan sat across from them, still trying to believe they'd made it out alive. "You saved us," she whispered to him, her voice soft but clear. Jordan shook his head. "No, you saved yourself the moment you spoke. I just gave you the mic," she smiled. And for the first time, it reached her eyes. "Still, I owe you more than I can ever repay," he chuckled. "Well, I did sign a marriage contract with a fugitive alien princess. I think I've already been paid in chaos." She laughed, real laugh. Light and warm, it caught him by surprise. "I wasn't a princess," she said. "More like a council assistant with opinions they didn't like. Still sounds royal to me." He replied, grinning. Silence fell again, but it was peaceful now. A silence without fear, without running. The officer returned with a small metal case. She placed it on the table between them. "Earth citizenship packet," she said. "Name change option is available. Legal identities can be re-registered under a new family unit." Jordan looked at Saralyn. She blinked in surprise. "Ah, new name." "You don't have to," he said gently. "But if you want a fresh start." Saralyn looked down at her daughter, still sleeping. Then she reached across and opened the case. Inside were 2 blank ID tags, waiting to be named. "I'd like my daughter to carry your name," she said slowly. "She deserves a future far from war. A name that means something. A name that protected her when no one else would." Jordan's throat tightened. He nodded. "And you?" Saralyn looked at him for a long time, then placed her finger on the ID panel and whispered, "Saralyn Malik." "That will do." Jordan entered his ID next, and the system beeped. The tag lit up family unit. Malik registered Earth citizens dependents. One me and Arj, like that. They weren't fugitives anymore. They weren't hunted. They were home. As the ship sped through the stars, Jordan leaned back and closed his eyes for the first time in years. He wasn't thinking about cargo jobs, hiding from taxes, or dodging pirate scans. Now he was thinking about how to build a home, a real one. Maybe he'd teach the girl how to fly. Maybe he'd help Saralyn grow a garden on some quiet Earth colony. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of an escape. It was the start of a life, a new name, a new home, a new family.